and welcome to Filmi Ladies. It's raining, Bebo. Hallelujah.
Rain, Bebo. Amen.
Amen. Helen above. It is the Bebo episode.
We've been looking forward to this since the Superstar series began, and here we are almost 2 years later, finally at Bebo, someone undeniably a superstar. Whether or not you think she should be is a different question, but I do not think there is any doubting the star power of Ms. Kareena Kapoor Khan. Uh,
Yes.
I, like, where to start? She's such a force.
Maybe let's start with, because this episode comes on the heels of our Karishma Kapoor episode, and we went into a whole thing about like, are we doing an episode on her because we think she's a superstar, or is she just here because of her last name? And eventually we both were like, it is the latter, not the former.
Although,
So
let me pipe in real quick. So when I posted this episode on Twitter, the Karisma episode, a lot of people kind of responded about, yeah, she is a superstar because of how well she balanced out, paired opposite, whatever, mainly Govinda.
right.
But and I think there's a lot to be said for saluting that kind of work. We all know it's not always easy to be the more subtle half,
Yeah.
but I'm also not sure that I'm not sure I think that makes you a superstar. I think it makes you worth talking about and your achievements worth noting and discussing, but I'm not sure that elevates her to superstar status. And I still am not sure if I think she's a superstar at,
Yeah.
and especially if you remove her last name.
I agree with you.
I don't know. I do know how I feel about Bebo, but I still don't know how I
Right.
feel about
But that's the thing, like we can argue, or people can argue about whether Karishma is an actual bona fide superstar or not. I don't think there's a person alive who's going to disagree with Kareena as Kapoor. That woman was a star from the get-go.
Yeah.
I have seen Refugee. It is a terrible movie. It is lumbering. It never ends. It is awful. She's still good in it though. And I think she's been good from the get-go.
Mm.
But what was the first Kareena movie you ever saw? Was it Khushi?
No, she's in the very first Hindi film I ever saw. She's in Mujhe Dosti Karogi.
Right.
And if I recall correctly, I was more taken by Ronnie.
Hmm.
To my, that has remained true. But Kareena in that is sort of doing poo again. It's that sort of character basically. Uh, and she is the quote I remember from that film. Now, maybe because it's in English, but her character goes around saying, "Leave it to Tina." Like,
Right.
which I think is so funny. And Sujoy of Khandaan even made me a gif of "Leave it to Tina" because I don't know why more people aren't saying that line all the time. Probably because that makes it well regarded, but uh, that really impacted me. And her as this like what like almost divinely ordained snoot, uh, uh, high opinion of self, fairly open and outgoing and confident and all that kind of stuff too, but like never questioning anything. Uh, it's hard not to read Kareena herself into
I
that.
know.
It's a great. Do I want to be friends with that person? Probably very much not. Even when
Right.
I was in my 20s, I probably didn't want to be friends with that person, but she's fun to watch on film.
Yeah. I feel like the best Karina characters are the ones where the lines are blurred, and I have no idea how much of this is the character and how much of it is Kareena Kapoor. Because, like, my favorite Bebo movie of all time is Jab We Met. I've seen that
Sure.
movie 1 million times, and I
Yeah.
watched it again preparing for this episode. And she is just a firecracker. You
Yeah.
can't look away from her. She carries that entire movie on her shoulders. Now, of course, a lot of credit goes to the writing, which is impeccable, the direction, which is impeccable. Shahid Kapoor is impeccable. The music is great. Everybody associated with that film is firing on all cylinders. But she is what makes that film as great as it is. And I don't know how much of it is actually Geet and how much of it is Kareena, but I'm not complaining. It's the same thing with Pooh, right? Like how much of Pooh is Bebo and how much of Bebo is Pooh? I don't know. The lines are blurred. But yeah, do I want to be friends with Pooh? Absolutely not. I think she's insufferable. But she's a lot of fun to watch on film.
Yeah.
So I prepared a tiny little quiz for you
Uh,
because I was very excited for this
and
episode.
I prepared quotes from the Kapoor bio for you.
Yay! Okay, so Um, you kind of actually already answered this because I said a Kareena Kapoor line that lives rent free in your head.
Yeah, for me, it's Leave It to Tina,
Yeah, for me, it would definitely be मैं अपनी favorite हूँ
of course.
from Jab We Met. Okay, Bebo in her 20s, Bebo in her 30s, or Bebo in her 40s. Which of her decade has been your favorite acting decade?
Um, Let me confirm. You tell me, and let me confirm a couple of dates here while you do that, because I was not expecting said question. Oh, she's conveniently born in 1980, so we can just
Yeah,
do it that way.
I think my favorite decade of her is her 40s because I'm very excited to see what she's going to keep bringing because I think she's really matured as an actor. I think she was always a very good actor, but she's so good at her craft now. I really liked her in Crew. I really liked her in Janeja. I really thought she was amazing in Lal Singh Chadda in that small, tiny little role that she had. So I'm very excited to see what she keeps giving us. I mean, she was great in her 20s and her 30s as well. Even though it's such a tiny role, I love her as Dolly Mishra in Omkara. Um, so I don't think there's,
In her 20s in that.
wow, yeah. I
So
don't think
that's
there's
what I was
a,
checking as I was thinking, like, where is this break exactly? And she's younger than I thought in some of the things that I really, really like. So she's in her 20s in Dub We Met, which is appropriate. Um,
yeah, she's in her 20s in Ahsoka as well. And I love her as Korwaki in
yeah.
that. She's so fierce and amazing. And we've talked about that movie before. So I've enjoyed her consistently in every single decade. I think I'm just more excited now because I think that she has star power, she has box office pull. She's like kind of the main reason I went and watched Crew because I like watching her on film. So I'm very excited to see what more she does. I also really liked her as Dr. Preet in Urta Punjab. So this more mature Kareena is someone I'm really vibing with.
Mhm. Yeah, if you said like I, I think I like her in all those decades, honestly, but I do think she's going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Obviously with some pauses among some things, but
Mhm.
I too am excited to see where she continues to go. And I hope that she will choose to keep acting.
Oh, I feel like she will. I think she was like born to act. I can't even imagine an alternate career for Bebo. Okay, here's a fun question. A Bebo character you would love to befriend.
Oh, it's hard to imagine a Bebu character who would have anything to do with me, honestly. I am not interesting enough. I have no control over resources that she would want. I don't offer her anything other
You
than
don't have Keijo on speed dial.
no. I mean, I'm a good listener, I think, or good, like you can vent to me. So if she just needs someone to talk to, but which of her characters is that? Maybe. Um,
I mean,
like
I
I love her in Agent Vinod, for example, but a spy is not gonna divulge to. Now, maybe she could tell me about her love life aspect or whatever, and that would be okay. But yeah, so it's hard. I like, yeah, I like some of these characters as people I would want to be friends with, but I can't imagine it would be reciprocated. Too good for me.
she would be a voyeur. Um, I think the paper character I really would love to get to know in real life is Dr. Preet from Urta Punjab. She's so lovely. I love how compassionate she is, and she's so smart, and she's intelligent, and she's courageous. And I love
Yeah.
quieter, more sedate Bebo. I love that she's a woman in STEM. I love that she's practicing medicine in Punjab. I love that she's aware of the realities of life. I don't know if she would want to be friends with me, but I would love to get to know Dr. Preet from Rita Punjab. She's adorable to me. I also want to befriend Diljit from Rita Punjab, but I always wanted to befriend Diljit. You were saying something, Beth?
Oh, I was just trying to remember if I liked her character in Ungrazy Medium, but the truth is I barely remember her being in it, so
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember well enough. That was quite a small role, if I recall, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, okay. The second part of this question is a Bebo character you would like to throttle.
Oh, well, who is the obvious one, but I don't really want to unravel the entire, um, existence of her career. So, Oh, well, this is not her fault. Heroine, the lead from Heroine, probably deserves a
Mahi, oh my
wanted
gosh.
to rewatch that for this podcast, and I did not have time because I watched four other things.
Yeah.
I've been in Bebo land lately, although everywhere is Bebo land. We're just living in it.
Yeah, it was
Um,
just raining Bebo where you were.
yeah, so maybe that one, but I also probably feel sorry for her as well.
Mm. For me, I would say that the character that I kind of love and also kind of strongly dislike and want to throttle is actually Geet from Jab We Met, because there's something so endearing and sweet and funny about her, and she clearly is so unrealistic, but that's also why I want to throttle her, because the woman makes piss poor decisions all throughout the movie. She makes bad decisions. Anshuman makes bad decisions. The only adult in that movie is Shahid Kapoor. He's the only one who has his head screwed on straight. So it's like, I feel like I really understand Shahid's character in that movie, because he looks at her and he's like, you're just this like weird person that I can't help but liking, but at the same time, I want to shake you and like wake you up. So I would say Geet, she's frustrating and she's insufferable at times, but at the same time, I have such a soft spot for her. So yes, that's the one I would want to throttle. Okay, an iconic Bebo outfit.
Oh boy.
I know there are many, but you have to pick one because I'm evil and I will make you pick one. I can tell you mine while you're thinking.
Go for it.
My number one iconic Bebo outfit is going to be the scarlet super tight pants with the side slit and the bralette all sequined sparkly from You Are My Sonia song from Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
Sure, sure.
First, like she looks like $1 million. That outfit is so tight. I feel like Manish Malhotra probably sewed it onto her. Like she's probably just standing still while he's like sewing it on. And she just looks like $1 million in scarlet. And I love how she dances in it. So yes, that outfit is my favorite Bebo outfit of all time.
That's fair. This might be because I did rewatch this film for this podcast, but I do also remember it that the thing where she's wearing jeans and the leather jacket in Tashan,
Yeah.
the very like low rise, it's 2008, right? So
Yeah.
it's a particular time in the history of denim.
Yeah.
And she's got the belts that look like kind of remind you of like gunslinger bullets and stuff.
Like kind of Southwestern looking.
Yeah, like a cowboy sort of. So
Yeah.
and I'll talk more about this and when we get to that film, but yeah, kind of like action masala Bebo.
Yeah. It's like Bebo in Feroz Khan land.
I've never
So
wanted a thing to exist more.
if only Feroz Khan was alive and he could hear our pleas. Okay, a movie that you would have loved to see her do. I mean, she could still do it if we consider remakes. Like a movie or a character you really wish she would do.
I can see her doing, as I can many other people, something like Bunty or Bubbly, where it's a caper,
Yeah.
but it's a lighthearted, fun caper. So Tashan is kind of a caper, but it's more serious.
Hmm.
I mean, the tone is not always serious, but she's avenging her murdered father. So that's, I think like trying to steal money from banks and stuff is more kind of what I would
Right.
say. Now, maybe she has done this and I haven't seen that film because I certainly have not seen all of her films, but I like kind of scheming mastermind Bebo. So as a spy, um, Pooh is a bit of a schemer as well, right?
Right.
So maybe something.
Manipulative
Crew is
for
that,
sure.
I really did think she was great in that. So maybe more of those would be fun. Um, yeah, because she's done Shakespeare. She's done, she did Chameli. She's done some non-masala-y things and
She's done historical in Ahsoka.
yeah.
I mean, she's kind of done everything. So I know one thing that she hasn't done that I really want her to do, because this is one of my favorite genres, and that is the Avenging Angel movie, where the woman is front and center, like Khoon Bhari Mang, Anjam. I live for those. I
Yeah.
I think she would be so good, especially now in her 40s. Can you imagine her as like a jilted lover or someone who's like reputation, like her career or something was snatched away from her or something, I mean, she would absolutely kill it. I want to see her in like boots and a gun or a whip, and she really goes for it. Maybe the
Yeah,
stallion is involved somewhere.
Tashan and Johnny John together and like kind of mix it around
Yeah,
a little bit and spit out something
but
slightly.
more Khoon Bhari Mangish,
Yeah.
more like more that flavor. Maybe
Mhm.
some crocodiles are involved. Maybe one of us, like someone should get Rakesh Roshan to do this for us. It would be excellent. So yeah, that's what I want from her. So okay, my Bebo quiz is done.
Okay.
So tell me which movies you watched, because I know
I
you saw a lot.
okay, so I watched Chameli for the first time. I had never seen that, believe it or not. I think I had assumed like it's going to be arty and boring in a way that I won't like.
Yeah,
And also, sometimes mainstream people do one of these and they're terrible.
yeah,
And sometimes arty people try to do a mainstream and they're terrible.
yeah.
So I didn't, and I do remember people talking about this movie, but mostly what I remember is the song. Um,
Mm.
but so I watched that, and then I rewatched Tashan, Omkara, and Khushi. Because apparently I wanted to stick within a 5-year window. I didn't need to do
Yeah.
such a tight cluster, but those were all things that I hadn't seen for a while. So I wanted to
Mm.
refresh. I feel like some of the more recent ones I have seen more recently, so I kind of remember
Right.
better. So that's my weird selection.
So what did you think of Chameli? Is she wasn't she super young in this movie? Like I want to say she's like
Um,
20 or
she's
21.
gonna be, she was 23, 24 when it came out. So,
Okay.
you know, I thought she was very strong.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have a long time ago, and I remember
Yeah.
liking it. I thought she was really good.
So for those who don't know, it's one of those films that takes place basically in the course of one night. She plays a sex worker. Rahul Bose is a businessman whose car has stalled out in a mega rainstorm and he's hanging out under the portico of a big building and somewhere in Mumbai.
Hmm.
And that's her usual area to work. So they,
Hmm.
talk and like various other characters kind of drift in and out of that main area. It does have that vibe of this could have been a stage play because
Right.
much of it is in that one site. It's raining cats and dogs for a huge amount.
Hmm.
It's kind of this interesting nature force happening. They eventually take a taxi to a bar to try to hunt down various people, and then some things go awry and they end up at a police station and some other things happen. I fully recommend this film if, like me,
Hmm.
you'd never watched it. I do think for it being fairly early in her career, I mean, it's even after her 10th movie, it looks like, at least in terms of things that released. And my bar was low going into this. And I think it took me 10, 15 minutes to kind of get into what she was doing and seeing her in a film like
Hmm.
this. And so maybe that's just my, expectations kind of getting in my own way. But once I was into it, I was into it. And I thought she did a
Hmm.
great job because it builds on. I can talk about this more with Kushi, but in the early 2000s, a lot of heroines were doing a lot of like shaking their
Yes.
heads all the time and like being kind of hyper chipmunky to show that they have spirit and have an ego.
Aishwarya in Dhoom. I have never disliked Aishwarya as much as I disliked her in Dhoom.
Pretty Zinta does it sometimes, if I recall. I'm sure Ronnie did it, and I'm not remembering.
Isha Deol did it a lot.
Yeah. So I expected, once you kind of realize she's not going to do exactly that, she's going to do a more parallel kind of version of that.
Yeah.
But she's spirited and resolute and confident. She knows how to mess with people, and she does. Like the way she tells Rahul Bose a bunch of crap about her backstory, and
She's shrewd.
she's very shrewd. She laughs a lot,
Hmm.
some of which I think is a bit of a facade, but not all of it. And she is caring. She takes care of this young boy who would otherwise basically be, I think, without a home and without any money
Hmm.
for school. So she provides his schooling and things like that. So it's a complicated, or at least a complex character, and I think she really gets at most of it. And I was trying to think, oh, who else is about this age that I would have liked to have seen in this role more? And I can't really think of somebody. Like Vidya Balan could have done an amazing job at it,
Yeah.
but I thought Kareena doing it. This is a far more meaty, juicy, and successful parallel outing than I would say Karisma's Zubaida was. For me,
Right. Oh, for sure.
he's more interesting. The script is more interesting. it's just got more going on, and therefore there's more for her to do. And she's not a kind of a naive, petulant baby in it, even though those characters are probably roughly the same age. But Karina's um, foray is just much stronger to me
Yeah.
because of the material. That also got me thinking, which of those sisters do I think is a better actor? I think Karina is the better actor based on what I've seen.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
so that was kind of again like superstar or no, but whatever. But yeah, I really liked Chameli, and I think it's I mean, shocking that it's as old as it is 21, 20
Yeah.
now, but I think it stands up and she can be proud of it.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about Kareena is that she experimented with roles and characters like from the get-go. Like her debut movie itself, Refugee, was like an unusual movie for her and Abhishek to debut in, right? Because like, yeah, it's a romantic movie, but it's like in this like war-torn situation and everything. It's JP Datta, and you know, and starting from that debut film, she's done all of these like unusual films very early on. Usually what a lot of Bollywood actresses do is that they start out doing these like flower pot kind of roles, and then they figure out like a hit jodi with an actor, and then they do a few films with them, and then they get to a point where they're like, okay, I'm like 15 films old now, let me try to do like something a little bit more meaty, or something where all the attention is on me and it's like a little bit parallelly or something, and then they attempt that. She's been doing it from the very start, and that's something I appreciate about her.
So Chameli was her 13th movie. And again, I don't know what
Wow.
order these things were filmed in. And then Ahsoka, which I guess would consider her first kind of experiment,
Yeah.
right, is her fifth film to release.
Pretty cool. So at
Uh,
that point when she was signing these things, she was signing a whole bunch of like
yeah.
different stuff. And I think that also brings me to an interesting point I wanted to mention. Have you ever experienced this, Beth? I experience it a lot, where Bebo has a very polarizing presence or image, where it's like anytime I tell someone how much I adore Bebo, I never know what kind of reaction I'm gonna get. I either People are either gonna be like, oh my god, I love her. She's
Mhm.
so whatever, whatever. Or they're gonna be like, ah, how awful. Like last week I went to lunch with my friend, and she was like, what were you doing before you got to lunch? And I was like, oh, I was watching a movie because like, Beth and I are gonna record our Bebo episode. And she was like, Kareena Kapoor. And I was like, yes. And you could just see the disdain on her face. So she's very, very polarizing in a way that most superstars aren't. If you tell someone you're a big fan of like Sri Devi or Madhuri Dixit or Juhi Chawla, whatever, most people aren't going to have this like knee jerk reaction of like, oh God, why? So I have my own theories about it, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, A, have you experienced the same reaction from people? And B, what do you think is the reason behind it?
I certainly have, and I will admit, I suspect I was one of those people because on my much neglected blog, one of the categories of film I have is so I have a lot of things labeled house favorite, so like Shashi and Shahrukh and whatever, but I also have house indulgence, Kareena. So I even was thinking of it like okay, I guess I like it,
Right.
Go in and change that because I I do not feel this an indulgence anymore. Now, granted, that was, more than 10 years ago when I made that, but still. Um, so yes, I suspect with the caveat that I do not pay particular attention to interviews, so I only kind of get things secondhand and I'm not
Hmm.
comprehensive, but I suspect it's because she lets her opinions fly, I think more than most other women,
Mm.
or at least she was doing it earlier or something is
Yeah.
my impression. I don't know if that's true, but my impression is that she does not hold back particularly, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Not only when
Yeah.
women do it, but particularly when women do it. So
Right.
I bet it's probably that subconsciously, right? Like we're all
Yeah.
complicit in patriarchy and that kind of thing. So that's my guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she's definitely very unfiltered, sort of in the way that, say, Kajol is as well. But I have to admit, like, for all my Karina love, the woman has always struck me as an absolute mean girl. And I think some of people's knee jerk dislike for her comes from the fact that she really has never come across as a particularly decent person. I'm not saying she's like evil, right? Like, obviously, I'm not saying that. But she's not likable in the way that, say, Devi is, or Madhuri is, or Juhi Chawla is, or whatever, right? Like, there's she's made comments that even if you're a Kareena fan, you can't really ignore. Like, to me, one of the standout comments is when she called Bipasha Basu Kali Billi, which means black cat, back when they were rivals. Like, they're, believe it or not, right? Like, there was a time when Bipasha Basu was considered a big competitor of hers, and she was doing really well, and her movies were becoming hits and stuff. And she hit back at Bipasha Basu in an interview by saying, "Oh, she's a Kali Billi," which means she's a black cat. First of all, that comment is so wrong on so many levels, because you're talking about a deeply colorist society like India, where Bipasha Basu is clearly way more dark complexioned than Kareena is. Kareena is like white passing. And for her to call her a black cat, she's being colorist. She's also being elitist. She's 100% being a mean girl. She's very much taking advantage of her privilege as a Kapoor, because Bipasha Basu, being a complete outsider who rose through the ranks as a model and then she became an actor or whatever, she can say things to Bipasha knowing that Bipasha, she's going to find it very hard to hit back in the same way. And it's just so mean. It's like, I get that she's your competitor. I get that she's your rival. Maybe you don't think she's as talented as you are, or maybe she's giving more hits or signing more films than you are. You still don't need to say something like that. And there's really no justification for saying something like that. So it's just this kind of like meanness that seeps from her, that it's very hard to justify. And it's the same reason why, like, I adore Bebo. I will say that, like, for sure. I like her as an actress a lot. I also actually think her interviews are very entertaining when she's not being horribly elitist.
Yeah.
But I will never defend her the way I would defend my favorites. Like, my number one actress is Wahida Rahman. If someone, I will not withstand Wahida slander. If someone said something bad about her, I would absolutely go toe to toe and be like, this is why you're wrong. But with Bebo, people tell me they can't stand her, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. So I think it's not just that she's unfiltered, it's the fact that she's so
It's mean.
elitist and classist. It's just a mean girl,
Yeah.
right? I
Which
think she's
that's
probably simmered down now.
and that's doubled down on by Pooh being one of the most famous roles, right? Like I'm sure that's partly why that clicked as a public
Yeah.
imagination quite so much, is that, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that, like, yes, I know she's a part of the Kapoor family, but I don't think any of the Kapoors were as elitist, or at least as openly elitist as she is. Like, I don't think Karishma has ever had a reputation of being a mean girl or anything, or maybe she's just diplomatic. Like, maybe she just didn't shoot her mouth off in interviews the way that Bebo did. But she definitely says things where I'm like, can you not? Like, I remember when the George Floyd protests were happening, and a lot of people on Instagram were putting up, like, Black Lives Matter or whatever. Kareena Kapoor, of course, being Kareena Kapoor, put up an Insta story about all lives matter. And I was like,
Oh, girl.
right. Or when Queen Elizabeth passed away, Kareena was in deep mourning. Her Insta stories were all about how terrible she felt. And I think, to me, have you ever heard this saying? You may have. It's a Hindi saying called "Angrez chale gaye, aulad chhod gaye." It means the British left India, but they left their offspring behind. And it actually does not refer to Anglo Indians or British people who chose to stay behind. It refers to Indian people who have that same colonialist mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
Bebo is a perfect example of that. So is Seth. So they're very much a match made in
Right.
heaven.
Right.
Like, they're perfect together for a reason. So I think some of it is the fact that she's unfiltered, like you said, but I think some of it is also that this is not a very nice person we're
Well,
talking
that,
about.
that comes through that lack of filter is meanness, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah, if she kind of kept it a tamper on it, that would be different, but it's not. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can.
But, hopefully there's some learning and growing happening, because I think now that she's in her 40s, I do think that she's either simmered down and become more sensible, or barring that, I think she's at least learned to keep some of her more problematic
Well,
opinions,
and hopefully,
you know.
so often that kind of thing comes from insecurity, and the
Right.
people, some of the most egotistical people are also deeply insecure. So it could have been that, and now
Yeah.
she doesn't have a whole lot to prove, probably most of the time.
Right.
She's very secure. She,
Yeah.
what she wants for the most part.
So tell me about Tashan. I saw that movie a long time ago, and I unironically enjoyed the song "White White Face."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Their dance mare re. Tell me about that movie.
Yeah. So first of all, Tashan came out 16 years ago.
Wow.
I would have told you 10 had you just asked me. I would have been deeply incorrect.
I don't understand time anymore, let me just say.
No. And what I think I remember about this film is that it was one of the early, like, mega marketed with the internet Yash Raj films. I'm not sure if
Mhm.
that's true, but I feel like kind of seeing it online before it released more than I remember most films of that time.
Yeah.
But the cast is really fun. Um, I like this attempt at a, action masala. It's quite violent in parts, which you don't necessarily expect going into it, I think. But I can also see why it didn't, it tanked at the box office, and you can kind of see why, because it's a very particular flavor.
Hmm.
Right, using kind of the formula, it is
Yeah.
handled in a very specific way that isn't going to be for everyone. And it might be one of those things that you feel like if this had been made in 1985 with Sri Devi, that would have been different than 2008 with Kareena, in terms of the women. So, but
Hmm.
I thought it was fun. It does have that, there's something very Yash Raj films about it, right? And I can't tell you
Yeah.
what that is exactly, but the way like Seth narrates and he's this English teacher and like he's got that horrible mustache and everything, you're like, oh yeah, remember this time? Remember this? It seems very of its time in an interesting way. So I kind of enjoy it as an artifact. I'm not sure
Mm.
I actually enjoy it particularly as a film, with a few exceptions. One of them being that I love seeing Kareena, carrying the action sequences that she does and being the major revenge taker and things like that, doing some kind of hero-ish things.
Hmm.
And then to my ears, amazing speed and agility with which the Hinglish flows in this film is incredible. Like, we've all obviously there's Hinglish in lots of films, but there's these different kinds in this film, and they just are flying and very
Yeah.
deliberately done in a way that really adds to the, like, kind of enhances the characters and the story and everything. So I was really blown away by the language in the
Hmm.
film. And it's, you've talked about having been an Akshay Kumar fan, but no longer really considering yourself one. And I had forgotten that I can really enjoy him. You
He's
know,
in Tashan. I don't even remember him in Tashan.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So he's the bounty hunter kind of goon guy
Okay.
that Anil Kapoor sends after Seth and Kareena. Um,
Okay.
and then other things happen. So, and if you haven't seen this film, I don't think you really need to run out and see it, but definitely watch some of the songs. They're fun. Uh,
Yeah.
it's hard to believe what a fuss was made over Karina's body transformation for this film. And that was one of the major things I remember, is that all this language about it, like,
The size zero stuff.
leave
Yeah.
that alone, for God's sake. Um, but I it was interesting to see it again. And whenever I listen back to one of our episodes, I realize how often I say the word interesting, and I've tried to stop, but I can't do it. So I'll keep trying. Um, it really is an artifact of what was going on at that time, I would say. So, and maybe watch
Tashan.
clips just to see the Hinglish a little bit, because it's fun.
Yeah. Tashan is one of those movies that when I saw it, which was a long time ago and I've never bothered rewatching it, I had high hopes for this movie. And I think it's because I really enjoyed that sort of Feroz Khan kind of,
Yeah,
swashbuckling
yeah,
swag. I love swagger. And
yeah,
Tashan literally means swagger,
yeah,
right? So, like, it's a Hindi movie called Swagger. Of course, I'm going to be interested. Plus, it had Bebo. I didn't particularly care about Seth one way or the other. I wanted to watch it for her, and the songs had become a hit, and I liked this Dilma beating heart, whatever this
yeah.
song, very happy in my heart, whatever. I used to sing it all the time, much to my friends' chagrin. So I had high hopes from this movie, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh, that was a damn squib. But like, I didn't hate it. I remember just thinking it was such a missed opportunity. But it could also have been because I had high hopes going in. It's kind of like if I want to watch a swashbuckling entertainer like that, I would either in English I would watch, Indiana Jones, or I would watch The Mummy, which is one of my favorite films, or in Hindi I would watch like Jan Baz, or anything that Feroz Khan has made, right? Like I'll watch Kurbani.
Mhm.
This just it didn't land for me. But I mean, I feel like it was a good attempt. It could have been good. And then what other film did you see?
Omkara.
Ooh, wow.
I had not revisited Omkara in quite some time, and I was riveted.
It's so you can't look
I-
away.
Why have I not watched this again more recently? Like, why haven't I watched this more? Wow, why am I not making everyone I know watch it? Because everyone I know is interested in Shakespeare adaptations, I feel. So like go try this one, whether you have experience with Indian cinema or not. Um, I believe I have said in this podcast that I'm not a fan of AJ Devgan, but wow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Seth, wow, as we've discussed, we think he's often underused, especially
Langra Tyagi,
early.
one of the most amazing villains in
Yeah,
Hindi cinema.
truly.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for the next 1 minute or so, if you haven't seen this, because this is different than how Othello ends, if I recall. I had forgotten what Konkana does at the end of the film, which is run after her husband, Langda Tiwari, with a scimitar, basically, or a sickle,
A
and
sickle.
hacks into him and then dumps his body in a well while screaming, which he fully deserves. But her character has been so, what, like kind of motherly and cheeky and fun throughout.
Hmm.
He realizes what he's done
Hmm.
to her brother, because her brother is Omkara, right?
I think so.
It was one of
I
those
don't
situations
remember.
where she's calling him Baya all the time, but so are other people. I'm like, is she actually is that a
Right.
figurative brother or a literal? I think it's a literal brother. Um, and she just, I mean, talk about an avenging angel, and it's so
Mhm.
condensed, and you could finish the film without seeing her do this because there's no comment made on it or whatever. It's basically the almost the very, very end. And I was uh just chill ran through me. And once again,
Right.
like more films for Konkana Sen Sharma, more.
Yeah.
Wow. But to get to Bebo in it, I think again, this the vulnerability.
Dolly.
Yeah,
Dolly as Desdemona.
so vulnerable. She's so is she naive? I'm not sure, but she doesn't know exactly what she's gotten herself into, but that's probably because no one has told her. So
Hmm.
it's not like you go around assuming your love interest is a gangster.
Right.
Maybe you do if you are the daughter of the father that you are, but that was kind of interesting to think. Interesting. I liked thinking through that. But poor Dolly, she is
Yeah.
so manipulated and is genuinely trying her best to be faithful and loving, and it's just she is no match for
Yeah.
Lungda. Um, I also think that if the film had not the story had not gone the way it is, there is no way that she would have survived a whole lot longer anyway. She's
Right.
not meant
No.
for that world. She was never
Mm-mm.
going to survive in that world.
She's not conniving enough. She's not strong enough. She's not shrewd enough. She's just kind of like she can only survive in that world if she has like a protector, because I don't think she can protect herself.
No, and her husband was too weak to protect her, you know,
Yeah.
or himself really. But
So
again,
that actually
remarkable film.
brings me to an interesting point, because you just mentioned two films in which she is paired with her real life husband. And I love Kareena with a lot of people. I think my favorite Kareena Jodi is probably with Shahid Kapoor, because they balance each other out in a way that I really enjoy. So I love them in Job We Met. I watched a movie that I've never seen. It's called Milenge Milenge. It's basically a remake of the Hollywood movie Serendipity. You're not missing much if you haven't seen it. It's okay.
Yeah,
But so she's with him in that. I think they were paired together in 36 Chinatown as
yeah, I
well, if I'm not
think so.
mistaken. Yeah. So I really enjoy her with Shahid. I like her with all the Khans. Like I like her with Shah Rukh in Ahsoka. I like her with Salman in Bajrangi Bhaijaan. I like her with Amir in Lal Singh Chadda. But I don't like her with Saif Ali Khan as much. Like Fine Agent with okay, but I don't really like their pairing. Like I did not like Kurban at all, and I didn't like them in Kurban. And then I don't get them in Tashan either. And then what other movies have they done? It's there's just something so strange to me that they're like a real life married couple and they clearly are very happy together and love each other. But when I see them on screen together, I'm like, nope, I'd rather see Seth with Rani or
Yeah.
Seth with Preeti. I don't want to see him with her. So I don't
Mm.
know what that is about.
Yeah, they're not my favorite pairing either. I think they're fine. And
Yeah.
I think that because I like both of them individually so much that I
Mm,
sort of extend that goodwill to them as a pairing. Um, I mean, in Tashan, she's using him. So
right.
that is a fake out. In Agent Vinod, there's not as much of a love story really, and they're both spies, so you never really know exactly what's going on that could be using each other, right? Or at least
Hmm.
is Kurban, yeah, that's a weird film.
It is a weird
Uh,
film.
and now I'm blanking
My
on.
main takeaway from Kurban was that Kareena looks amazing with like the really thick kohl eyeliner. That was my main takeaway.
Can we please talk about? I just don't feel like there's anyone who wears eyeliner as well as she does. And I know nothing
Rani?
about eyeliner. I just think she is whatever is people do to her eyes,
Yeah.
just nothing like it. And when you see her with very light eyeliner on, I feel like she's missing something. There's something that
Yeah.
like jumps alive to me in her face,
Hmm.
and I just think she's absolutely stunning.
My favorite Bebo looks are actually the ones where she is completely bare of makeup, where it's just her natural skin tone, and she has really dramatic eye makeup, which is basically her in every single frame of Ahsoka.
Right.
She looks amazing. And also all of the whatever face
You look.
makeup
Yeah.
that they have done to her, she just rocks it like very few people can. And the eye makeup in Ahsoka is extremely dramatic. It's like it's the thick gold, but then it's wing, like it's like a double wing happening. And she just, I think one of the things that makes Bebo such a star to me is that when she comes on screen, she just looks at you. It's her gaze, right? Like the way she looks at the camera, it's so sharp. This is not someone who's going to lower her gaze or who's going to look away or whatever. There's nothing demure about her. So when she has that like dramatic eye makeup, it just, I love it. That is also why I want to see her as an avenging angel in a Kunpuri Mang-esque movie, because I just think she would be so badass. But yes, I agree with you 100% about the eye makeup.
Mm. Yeah, she's amazing. Um, I'm so glad that she did Omkara, that she was considered for that and brought in for that. I just think it's another really fantastic entry into, as we were saying, like a more than averagely interesting filmography.
Yeah,
And obviously the casting for that film overall is pretty, with the
it's
well,
crazy.
at least for three of the leads, everyone, I suspect people are like, "Hmm?" But I was
Yeah.
reading something earlier today about, oh, AJ Devgan, the actor, and I was like, I haven't seen the right things, I guess. But I mean, it is flawless.
It is. It's brilliant. But I mean, it's Vishal Bharadwaj. Like, oh my
But
God.
I haven't seen Makbulin or Hader in a long time, but I suspect
Mm,
it would be hard to top this one for me.
yeah. I
Mm.
think from I would definitely rate Makbul higher than Omkara, but that is purely because of Irfan love.
Right.
If Irfan, like I can't look away from Irfan and Tabu together. Like, of course, they're great in namesake, but then also the two of them together in Makbul, like I can't look away. So Irfan just makes Makbul for me, and of course, like Pankaj Kapoor and everything. Like, it's a good film, but for me, it's an Irfan movie. So since we're talking about a great masterpiece, flawless, such as Omkara, let's talk about the other extremely flawless masterpiece that you love so much, which is Khushi. As we know, they are both on par in terms of cinematic brilliance. And it has a very strong actor in it, the great Fardeen Khan, as we know.
Oh, listener, if you have not seen this film, it's from 2000, what, three. It is very, very, very from 2003. It is also a remake of a Tamil film.
Oh,
I knew that. I was like, oh, okay. I feel like you can kind of sense that it's got something a little bit different about it. And I say this like I know anything about Tamil films. I do not. But sometimes when things are remade from a different cinema tradition, you can kind of tell something is when I say
askew.
off, I mean askew, different than what you expect. And there's something
Yeah.
about it, and I don't know what it is. I watched a couple of the songs from the Tamil original last night to see if I could get a flavor there to see what I was noticing. And Jyotika is, I would
Oh, okay.
expect, a stronger actor at the time the film was made than Kareena is at the time this film was made, even though it is after Pooh and Ahsoka. But it's a very silly film in a way, but the Amitabh Bachchan does the voiceover narration, and there are these two souls who are meant to be together. One is Khushi Kareena, who is born somewhere in Uttarakhand, to Amrish Puri. And at first you're like, what a weird daughter-father combo. But then they've got the same like screeching, bug-eyed energy, really. Which again adds to your idea that like Kareena as avenging angel, like she could do fierce Amrish Puri level, I think, if she wanted
Yeah.
to. So let's make that happen. And then the other one is Fardeen Khan, who's born in Calcutta to Naveen Mitchell. And they eventually find their way together. And the point of it is they meet at university. They each have a friend who are in a couple, and they spend
Mm.
a lot of time trying to get their friends together because the girl's father is Sharat Saxena, and he's like a mob boss or whatever. And so
Mhm.
they have to do a lot of sneaking around. And Fardeen and Kareena do a lot of arguing. I was actually trying to figure out, is this an adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing, kind of, but it's got that like
Mm.
spar, spar, spar. Oh, actually, we love each other. Spar, 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 blah, blah, blah. So she
Right.
very high octane, argumentative, interrupts, thinks she's right all the time, leaps to conclusions, and then he has to say to her, actually, if you would just listen to me, you would hear that, da, 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 which is not my favorite dynamic when it's always the woman who is told to shut up and listen.
Right.
That said, she is very irritating. So, but it's the songs in this dumb movie that I love so much. And I had honestly, if you'd asked me before yesterday, what is the plot of Khushi, I really wouldn't have been able to tell you. I think I would have remembered they were at university. Eh.
Right.
So, we talk about hero entry songs. Heroine entry songs are more unusual, especially with
Right.
a name in it, like other than Sheila,
Right.
and things like that, or Muni. Um, so here is a character singing about who she is. She's coming. She's like, I'm arriving. Everyone thinks I'm beautiful. I'm smart. I'm talented. Da, 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 da. And she's like frolicking in lakes and rivers and with people with different sort of pastoral people and like in doing goofy things in costumes and dancing around. And so much of the like, you know,
Right.
like showing how excited I was trying to think like, oh, Pretty Zinta could have done this, and that would have also been very
Right.
me. But Kareena brings a brat energy that Preeti does not to me, at least in the things I've seen her in. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, it is it's from 2003. It's not a movie that anyone really remembers, but you have that song, and then you have Fardeen's entry, which is called Good Morning India, where you follow him around a day and a night out in Calcutta. And they like slip into a little Rabindra Sangeet moment, and you see him on the streetcar, and then they're, in front of the Howard Bridge, and they're dancing with pom-poms in front of the Victoria Memorial. Like there's,
Because of course someone would do that.
of course,
I
that's
mean,
my first time.
my question is, why didn't he bring the pom poms to the Rabindra Sangeet? Because, like, I feel like that could be a moment.
That could be a moment. Sorry, Bengalis, please do not come after us. We're not saying we want that. We're just saying it's interesting that it didn't happen.
All right.
He does slip into Bengali a little bit, and there's a time where they rhyme samosa and rashagola.
Oh God.
And like, are they just? But this is so. I was looking at this song on YouTube, and some of the comments are hilarious. Like, there's a Fardeen Khan fan group out there, which I did not know.
Yeah.
One, I know this isn't the point of our conversation, but I will just say I find him cute. I don't think he's the world's most amazing actor by any means.
Right.
I have also I don't think I've seen him in a film that would have really challenged anybody or really had a lot to say or that was interesting or that was even particularly stylish. And I include John.
Right.
in that. So like even
Have
his
you seen Prema Gun?
I sure have. I sure have. That's a real
It's a
that's a film
doozy.
that exists.
I bought a copy of Prema Gun on eBay and sent it as a birthday gift to my friend, my very close friend, because this is how I express my love to my friends. It's
So,
like, happy birthday! Here's a DVD of Prema Gun for your enjoyment.
oh boy. But I don't know, as far as like early 2000s star kid vehicles go, Khushi could be a lot worse. Johnny Lever is there as a student who never
Mm.
graduates. And like,
Oh,
okay. So here's the one thing I want to point out about this movie that also has nothing to do with Kareena. They are both performing in the like annual show or whatever that's always
oh, I think you're going to talk about the blackface.
no,
Isn't there?
that's a different song.
Okay.
There is blackface in this movie, where they are driving around the United States. I believe they're in Houston or around Houston because I've
Okay.
actually to see what the highway signs are. And I was like, oh, please don't do blackface, please, 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 please.
Right.
Um, but in this, there's a song which isn't separate as a song, but they're just rehearsing. So everyone's in their like 2003 workout clothes. Oh, the low rise. Oh, how we love it.
Oh, God.
Like it's such a time capsule. Um, the floor of this facility where they're working in a spiral has the lyrics to Love Don't Cost a Thing.
Oh,
There's giant posters of J-Lo in the background. And then on another wall, I think it's the Backstreet Boys. As I've stated, I'm a little too old to recognize the Backstreet Boys at all incarnations of their, but I think that's who that is. Um, why? Why is there a spiral of the lyrics
no,
of
the correct question is why not,
why
Bev?
not? To quote the
Why
great
not?
invoke the great Carlos Khan. So there's just a lot of great early 2000s nonsense happening in this film. And if you would like to spend some time with that, you could do worse than Khushi, but you could also do better than Khushi. So I don't
Nice.
really recommend that you watch it necessarily. But if you want that manic Kareena,
Mm,
an excellent choice. It's not exactly poo, but it's in that general palette.
mm. It's
Um,
poo adjacent.
yeah, poo adjacent. So like a overly confident young woman. She's not supposed to be as rich as Pooh, and she's not supposed to be a fashion diva or anything like that. I don't think she does not refer to herself in third person particularly. Well, I guess she kind of does in the opening song, but but it's if you just want to see some squabbling, you could watch this film, but you don't need to.
You're not really selling this movie
No,
very
I'm
well.
not trying to sell it. If you told me please sell this movie, I would have a hard time. But it is one of
Right.
those to me indelible Kareena things because it falls so in line with that version of what a lot of people were doing, but she was maybe the exemplar of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't miss it. It would be very inappropriate to do it now in her 40s, right? Like the
Right.
confidence is earned, but like that sort of manic, she's not a manic pixie dream girl, but she is a manic girl.
Speaking of manic, please tell me that you have watched Main Prem Ki Diwani Hoon,
Oh, of
which
course.
has manic Bebo as well as manic Hrithik Roshan.
So bad. My word, that movie is bad. Yeah,
That
this is
movie
not as
is
bad as that.
painful.
It's kind of similar in a way.
I once saw an Instagram reel that someone had done where they were trying to recreate that song where she's wearing that yellow chiffon sari and she has like some musical instrument. Was it a guitar? I forget. And she's like crying, but also defiant. And she has very photogenic tears down her eyes. And then there's Ritik, and this person was doing it on Instagram. And I was just like laughing because that movie was a slog. But I have never seen. I mean, I've gotten a glimpse of Manic Ritik in Koi Mil Gaya, but मैं प्रेम की दीवानी हूँ ऋतिक tested my Hrithik fandom.
It's so incredibly bad. The animated parrot.
Wasn't there an animated dog in it as well? I think so. Yeah, that movie was quite a watch. So I rewatched Jab We Met, which I
Oh,
love.
yeah.
Such a good movie. It is so entertaining. I don't even know what to say about it because she's so excellent in this movie. And I can't imagine anyone else doing this movie well. Like I was actually thinking about it because as you know, I love to cast films. And I was like, is there anyone who could have done this? And I came to the conclusion that absolutely no one could have done what she did in it because she has, yeah, she has all of the like kind of poo light, poo adjacent, poo from Bhatinda happening in it, right? In the first half. But then I love Bebo in her quiet moments. I love her when she's sad and when she's in that school or hostel or whatever, where she's like just drying the dishes. It's so sad to see her like that. And she doesn't have makeup and she's wearing her ponytail and like she's wearing a little cardigan. And I just want to go and give her a little hug because she just looks so defeated. I mean, there's of course a part of me that wants to lecture her, like, okay, if you actually thought a little before just running away from home all the time, then maybe things would be better. But I have such a soft spot for that character that I just want to like comfort her and like give her a nice hearty meal and be like, don't be so sad, it'll all work out for you, Geet. But I think she's lovely in that film. I love her emotional outbursts, like that iconic scene where she picks up the phone and she says all these galis to Anshuman over the phone, and then she feels so much better. I think that movie really like shows everything that Kareena is capable of, right? Like there's so many people even who said that Bebo for a superstar is not a particularly good dancer. And I agree. She's not as strong a dancer as her sister, and she certainly is not in the league of like Devi or Madhuri, whatever, because they're just in a separate planet. But she's actually very good in these dances. She's really, which is quite amazing given that Shahid Kapoor is a phenomenal dancer and he's in it. So she's just every box that a heroine is supposed to tick, she ticks all of those boxes. She's great in the fun scenes. She's great in the romantic scenes. She's great in the emotional stuff. She's subtle. She's restrained. She's nuanced where she needs to be. She looks like $1,000,000 in every single outfit. And I remember her outfit became so iconic where she wore the Patiala shalwar, but she wore a t-shirt over it, and then the bangles. It was such a moment, like such a fashion moment.
I was looking online for I wanted a still from that movie to use as the thumbnail for this episode, of course, because it is so iconic. And I found so many posts on Instagram and things where people were recreating her outfits.
Yeah. It's
Fun.
amazing. But yeah, and I was actually reading an interview of hers where she said that Jab We Met is the movie that, so Shahid Kapoor was very instrumental in bringing her into this film because Imtiaz Ali had cast him, and then Shahid and Kareena were dating, and he basically said to her, you have to do this role, like you would be phenomenal. And she was like, okay, fine. And she did it. And during the shooting of this film is when they basically broke up. So I don't know what part of the film they're still together and what part of the film they've actually broken up, but you can't tell. It's seamless, it's flawless. And after this movie released and it became a giant hit, she apparently had all her hopes pinned on Tashan because she thought it was going to be a blockbuster, and that sank without a trace. But so professionally it tanked, but she met her future husband on the sets. She met Seth, and then Jab We Met, personally it tanked because they had broken up by the time it was released, and it was very awkward for them to promote it together. But professionally it was like one of the highs that she achieved. So I read in an interview that she considers those two films, Jab We Met and Tashan, kind of like karmically connected, because they came right after each other, and they both had such interesting lasting effects. And she talked about how after Tashan flopped, she was really sad. She was really miserable for like almost 6 months. But then eventually she got over it. And with hindsight, she feels like it wasn't a total loss. I mean, she met Seth through it. So I found that interesting. Um, do you have any parting thoughts on Bebo? Oh, you were going to read from the Kapoor biography.
Let me crack the Kapoor bio for the final time because this book came out in 2005.
Oh,
So,
so there is no Ranbir. Okay.
nope. He is mentioned very much in passing here and there, but
Is this entry like Ranbir is a bebe?
uh yeah, it says that in keeping with family tradition, the 20-something Ranbir Raj Kapoor was made to cut his teeth outside RK when he assisted Sanjay Leela Bansali in Black, and is
Hmm.
all set to go in front of the camera in Bansali's next film, A Love Story. And my note off to the side goes, and he did.
Right.
So that's kind of it. Okay. This is a bit of a long one, so do settle in, but I think you will enjoy what I am about to share. Um, There is something about Kareena. Directors talk in superlatives about her. Says Sanjay Leela Bansali, Kareena exudes a unique mystery and power in her personality. There's something very striking and untamed. Everything about her is different from the actress I've worked with before. End quote. She is often compared with Meena Kumari. Bansali is reminded of the pathos of Meena Kumari and the fire of Nargis, that's quoted. And Mishra believes that she has the emotional depth of Meena Kumari and the joy of Madhubala. End quote. Is Kareena then a throwback to the stars of the black and white era?
Hmm.
Put a pin in that. Let me read you another quote and then we can discuss. Um, okay, here's from her dad, who, what we've discussed, was not a major figure, it really sounds like, in his life. So it's kind of too bad he's shooting off his mouth, but here we go.
Oh God.
So this is again 2005. This is almost 20 years old. Kareena is already a budding showwoman. The Kapoor in her is taking ascendance, living life king size, as her father likes to say about himself. Ranbir Kapoor believes that she is a typical Kapoor. She loves to shoot her mouth off. Even now, when we meet, she'll call for food. We'll have a big feast. She's large-hearted like me. Perhaps she is out Kapooring the Kapoors, and that's lovely.
Ah,
Her father would be happier if she were to rein in some of her brashness. Her dad again quoting, she sounds like Shah Rukh Khan in her interviews. She's always making those I'm the best statements. I always tell her that she should not blow her own trumpet. She's unnecessarily stepping on others' feet.
how
Well,
interesting.
fine when men do it.
Right.
I have to say about that. Uh, and dad, she's better than you. So
Oh, yeah. I love where he's basically like taking credit for how she is because he's like, she's like me. And I'm like, first of all, she's absolutely nothing like you, which is why she's a superstar. And secondly, you had nothing to do with her
she
upbringing. So
has
also,
not yet dissolved her own family. So
right.
Um, so yeah, okay. Is Kareena then a throwback to the stars of the black and white era? And I can hear some people laughing as we say this, but a scholar,
Right.
a scholar slash journalist did write that in this book, and it's something to think about. Um, the ferocity of her maybe is what I'm thinking of, and actually, and I. Sal, if you're listening, this comment is for you specifically. There was something you were saying earlier in our episode, Pitu, where I thought, is Kareena, is there something like Suchitra Sen about Kareena? And I
Mm,
apologize to the Bengalis again, because I'm sure that comment will not be popular. But I was just thinking about Woman and how, yes, she started as a girl, but I feel she has matured and has chosen roles for herself that enable the depiction of woman, um, which is something her sister didn't really get to do.
right.
Um, and I think even when we saw her in oh my God, what was Murder Mubarak? Like that person's kind of a little bit emotionally stunted in some ways, and it's not
Yeah.
her own fault and whatever. But so Kareena as woman is, and with kind of that, what, like a force of the serenity of knowing yourself and of having values or having a mission or whatever, like that. So I don't know. Those are just kind of thoughts collected around, is she a black and white heroine?
I think that's being too generous. And I say that as someone who really enjoys her movies. Like when I was looking at her filmography, because I decided I was going to revisit Jab We Met, but I knew I wanted to watch at least one film I've never seen. And Beth, you will not believe, when I was reading through her filmography, there were like maybe two films of hers I haven't seen. One is the Buckingham Mysteries, which
Right,
is
which I
that,
never heard of till just now.
yeah, which I don't even like. Is that Hindi? Is that English language? I have absolutely no idea. Is it a streaming show? Is it? I don't know.
Not
But
on
there's that.
I looked.
Yeah, like I think she plays like a detective in it or something.
Mhm.
So I haven't seen Buckingham Mysteries,
Yeah.
and I hadn't seen Milenge Milenge, which is why I decided to watch Milenge Milenge. So I clearly like her because I've seen pretty much all of her filmography, and I think that the Kapoor biographer is being extremely generous when they say that she's like, she's just, I don't think she's of that level. I don't think you even think that she's of the level of the superstars who preceded her. Like I don't think she's in the leagues of Madhuri or Sri Devi. I actually think she's in the leagues of Juhi Chawla. Like, I think she's stronger than Juhi Chawla, actually. Because I don't think Juhi Chawla has the same acting chops that Kareena does. And as far as the Suchitra comparison is concerned, I just haven't seen enough of her films where I can.
Yeah, and I by no means do I think she is the next Suchitra Sen or anything. Oh, and she
Right.
older than when she retired. But there, yeah. So are there things about actors of the past that we see in her? Maybe, but that's not exactly the same as being a throwback to the stars of the black and white era. But
Yeah,
our movies are not like that, and the industry is not like that. So it's not even a maybe it's not even a particularly useful or
right. Yeah, I don't even know how we would do that comparison. But one thing that struck me the other day is that I feel like Kareena is the original Alia. Um, because with Alia Bhatt, I feel like uh, I personally do not think Alia Bhatt is even remotely as talented as people say she is. I'm not saying she's bad. I do think she's talented, but I don't think she's. It really grates when Karan Johar calls her like the next Meryl Streep. I'm like, Alia Bhatt does not have a fraction of Meryl Streep's talent. Can you not? Right. So I think she's good. I don't think she's phenomenal. I did love Alia Bhatt in like Urta Punjab and stuff like that. I liked her Darlings a lot, but I just don't think she is. I mean, she debuted at a time when there was very little competition. And if you compare her to these other Nepos, of course she's great, but she's not that great. So I feel like Bebo almost is the original Alia, where people who were older than us probably looked at her as a Kapoor who had opportunity after opportunity handed to her in a silver platter. And she made good choices, just as Alia has. Alia also deserves credit for having chosen, really interesting roles and really trying to like stretch herself and, stuff like that. So I think she also deserves credit for that. But was she all that back then? I don't know. I certainly think that Bebo was way more talented than Alia is. Um, but I almost wonder if she's kind of like the original Alia. And it's also very funny to me, like whenever I've watched Alia interviews, it's just a sense I have. I always feel like Alia is kind of trying to channel Kareena Kapoor in a weird way. I don't know why I feel that way. I just kind of do. It's almost like I feel like a lot of the younger actresses like Alia, Ananya Pandey, Janvi Kapoor, Khushi Kapoor, all of these people, I feel like they grew up kind of idolizing Pooh.
makes
And,
sense.
huh?
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They would.
And so I feel like Alia almost like tries to channel that Kareena energy, but it doesn't work for me because I'm like, there's only one Kareena and she's the OG, and like, why are you trying to like copy her, whatever? So I don't know. I think she's great. I really like her, but I think that biographer is being very, very generous. And Ranbir Kapoor needs to not take credit for his daughters, okay?
I, I mean, even just from the samples from this book, I feel like he kind of says various things, and you can say, you can find him saying various things to suit your purposes if you're going to go through his.
Mm.
Sounds like, but yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah. So sometimes we talk about what uniquely does this person bring in our superstar series, and
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this because I don't think that Kareena is the best of her cohort at
Mm.
some of those things that heroines were doing at the time she debuted. Like Ronnie is obviously a little bit older, but not much older.
Yeah.
I mean, give me Ronnie. As much as I love Kareena and it is her role,
Right.
if you're like, give me Ronnie any day at any
Right.
of these things, right? Like, and it's not just at certain things. Like, I think Ronnie could do basically better than Kareena in all of these roles, maybe even Jab We Met, maybe. Um,
Mm.
or at least, but there is just something about her that I find very compelling, even when she's being bratty, ridiculous,
Yeah.
smug, mean. And some of those are characters. Maybe it's just fun to get to see women do those things.
Yeah.
Like good. Um, like in Khushi, her dad does not want her to go away to university. And I guess, I don't know if this is actually true, but in the movie, a parental signature is needed on the application
Mm.
to university
Mm.
for a master
Okay.
he's supposed to be doing. And
Okay.
he, she forges his signature. And
Okay.
oh, Beatty, she goes off, she goes off to Mumbai to go to do her master's degree. So she's not a good girl. And that's maybe that's underneath a lot of this in a way that is
Mm.
fun. But then again, if that's what heroines are doing at this time, then other people are also doing it. But there's maybe something about how she conveys that that is compelling, even though, as stated, I don't really want to hang out with any of these, most of these people until she's older.
Well,
Until,
that's an interesting thing you just said, where you said that, she's not a good girl, and her contemporaries. But the thing is, Preeti Zinta always played a good girl. I don't think I've seen
right? Like,
what.
well, in some way, I mean, isn't she a sex worker in a film, for example?
Yeah, but she was still
So Heart of
like
Gold.
with the heart of gold. Yeah, that old stereotype. Like she was always like things happened to Preeti Zinta. Like in Kya Kehna, she's like pregnant. She's an unwed mother, whatever. But Preeti always like portrayed someone that was like maybe not someone who could speak up for herself in some ways. Like, for example, in Dil Chahta Hai, she's getting married to this dude that she doesn't want to marry. I do not see Kareena getting married to a dude she doesn't want to
Yeah.
marry. I would not believe that,
Yeah.
you
Although
know?
she almost does in Khushi.
Okay.
That the groom writes her a letter and says, I'm actually in love with someone else, and I was afraid to tell my father, but I'm really sorry. Um,
Right.
but
And then Rani, to me, there's something about Rani that I hesitate to use the word serious, but there's something a little bit more serious about her, in the sense that I feel like Kareena can do flippant
I would, yeah, she's
better.
not as earnest or something, or she
Yeah,
evokes a less earnest.
like even when Rani is being a schemer and a manipulative and naughty, for example, in Bunty or Bubbly, um, or even her role that she has in Aya, there's an earnestness to her, and like almost like a seriousness to her. Like I feel like Rani wouldn't lie to me. You know what I mean? Which is nonsense, because in Bunty or Bubbly she's lying constantly. But I almost feel like Rani wouldn't con me,
Mm.
and maybe that is her genius, that she can fool people into believing that she would con them. But with Bebo, I feel like whatever she said, I would take everything with like a sack of salt, because I'm like, you were trying to pull one over my eyes. So I feel like she's the only one who is like good slash bad, where everyone is primarily good. So maybe that's her special thing, that she's kind of like unabashed. It's the mean girl, Beth. It's the
Yeah. And it's not quite she's winking at you, but it's sort of
no.
she could, you don't know if
Yeah.
you believe her or not. You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can imagine Bebo in an adaptation of like Mean Girls or Heathers or one of those movies. I don't know who else I would cast in those films. Why are
Yeah.
you giggling?
I mean, we'd have to stretch disbelief a little bit, but I know I want Bebo and Heather as the first Heather who dies with the corn nuts.
Right.
The
But
head.
like, doesn't Bebo give you Regina George energy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I can't imagine any other Bollywood actress from her cohort as Regina George. It's only Bebo who can do
So
that.
who would you say is her cohort? I meant to kind of look this up or formulate this and I forgot.
To my brain, it's always Rani and Preeti.
Okay.
And
And
maybe it's.
you said.
Yeah, but the thing is that Rani, Preeti, and Bebo were always fighting for those same like Yash Raj and Dharma Productions roles. Bipasha was always off in Mohit Suri land.
Yeah, she did.
Like
Yeah.
she was doing the Bhatt films, right? Like she was doing Jism and things like that. Or then who is that other director? Dharmesh Darshan. She was doing stuff like that. And then I guess Priyanka, isn't Priyanka in Bebo's cohort? But
Probably.
then, but Priyanka was doing those films with Dharmesh Darshan and stuff. I don't think Priyanka was a Yash Raj heroine, and I don't think Priyanka was ever a Dharma heroine. So to my brain, it's Rani, Preeti, and Bebo, because they're almost, they're you don't know who Yash Raj or Dharma is going to cast.
And here's my maybe final assessment. Ronnie for sure is a superstar. I believe
Yes.
we do her for this series. Preeti, she didn't last quite long enough. Um,
Yeah.
and over my cold dead body is Priyanka Chopra a superstar.
Really? I think Priyanka Chopra is a massive superstar.
Oh, good.
I think she had a lot of box office pull, definitely more than Preeti. So I think Priyanka Chopra would definitely be
Don't
a
make me do it.
superstar.
Don't make me do it.
Ah,
Like if you don't do um Asha Parekh. We cannot do Priyanka Chopra.
I mean, I there's a
We do
limit to
Hema
how
Malini.
much
We cannot do Priyanka Chopra.
we did do Meena Kumari. Meena Kumari is
Okay.
widely considered the
I know.
greatest Indian actress alive, which I'm like really moaning Myrtle
Round
herself.
round two,
Um,
but
but Priyanka was definitely a bigger superstar than Preeti for sure, whether we like her or not. Um, but yeah, to me, it's like it's Rani Preeti, Bebo. And they often did films that others like Kalo Na Ho was meant for Bebo, but then Preeti did it instead.
I did not know that Bebo was supposed to be in Kahona Pyar Hai, and she left it.
Oh yeah, Amisha Patel did it. Yeah,
I did not know that
because
was in mind for that. I
she
mean,
shot for it, and I think that there is actually like eagle-eyed people have seen this, not me because I'm not eagle-eyed. Eagle-eyed people have actually spotted Bebo in the background, like very vaguely walking off. In I think a scene or a song that Hrithik Roshan has on one of those beaches in Phuket or whatever, and like you can spot her, but like you can't tell it's her. But yeah, apparently she shot for Kahuna Pyar Hai a little bit, and then I think Babita figured out that, hello, Rakesh Roshan is launching his own son. Of course, he's going to get the lion's share of everything, and I think that's why she backed out, and then Amisha Patel was brought in. But yeah, I knew that.
and speaking
Um,
of Everybody's like, "Ooh, she did not last."
oh yeah, no, she did not, for good reason. Okay, this brings us to our favorite segment, which is what ice cream is Kareena Kapoor. And I have formulated my answers 3 days ago, Beth.
I also
Tell
did.
me yours.
Okay. Um, so this is what I arrived at, and I've not been able to shake it. So I'm not going to claim I think this is the best. Um,
Okay.
some kind of very strong mint.
Ah,
It like cuts through and it's refreshing, but it's also strong. And
yeah.
you could make it more sweet and like have chocolate chips in it or whatever, or you could have it be the kind that comes out at Christmas where it's got the little crumbles of actual mint can like candy cane in it. So I don't know if she's like a green spearmint minty or she's more like the
Mm,
or actually a natural mint, which is not a color probably. Um,
right.
yeah, mint is what came to mind because it's I think it's got a bit of an edge to it.
Yeah. But it's always refreshing. And what is funny is that in real life, my favorite ice cream flavor of all time is mint chocolate chip. So, of course, I love Kareena Kapoor. Okay. So, I came up with this ice cream flavor for her, and there's a good reason, and there's also a mean reason. Because, in keeping with Kareena, I have to be a mean girl too. So, I picked tender coconut. The good reason for why I picked tender coconut is because Kareena is known off screen for being very diet and health conscious. Like she eats organic and seasonal. She credits her dietitian doctor, like Rujuta Divekar, with all of that. And, you know, she's all about like being healthy and stuff. And so I feel like coconut makes sense given that she lives in Mumbai in a coastal city. So it makes sense that she's like coconut ice cream because typically in India, like especially if you buy naturals coconut ice cream, their tender coconut is very like it's just straight up coconut and there's no preservatives added. So I think that appeals to like the healthful. Here's the mean reason why, because I think you have figured it out, but a lot of Indians refer to the Angrez chale gaye aulad chhod gaye people as coconuts. So people who are brown from the outside and you think they're Indian, but really they're snow white from inside because this is who they are. So I think it fits that side of her personality as well. But I'm picking tender coconut for her.
Nice, nice.
I love how much dedication we have towards our ice cream flavors. Our ice cream shop is going to be such a hit, Beth. We're going to become moguls.
Can't wait. Um,
Yeah.
since we are in our Superstar series as well as our Kapoor series, who's next in our Superstar series? Because we have to circle way back to catch.
Next is Smita Patel because we stopped off at Shabana Azmi in the 70s, and then the final 70s superstar Smita Patel, and then we enter the 80s. And then I've forgotten who is the first one on our list because believe it or not, Devi was actually a 70s superstar because she debuted
Must be
in the
Madhuri, right?
70s. It it may possibly be Meenakshi Shashadri. I'll have to check
Ah,
our.
yes.
I think I'll have to check our Google Docs, but I think it may be Meenakshi, or it could be Madhuri. I don't really know. But I know that we still have our final 70s superstar left, and that is Smita Patil. Imagine doing a Bebo episode and then doing Smita Patil.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Smita, like some other things have come up in our scheduling that we wanted to do at particular times, but
Yeah.
you must prepare for a Smita Patil.
Yes.
Even if you've seen all these films and thought about them a whole lot, I feel like you need to really brace yourself.
There is some homework that is required, kind of like the Shabana episode. Yes.
In my case, even more so because I've seen fewer of her films, but also,
Yeah.
yeah, Shabana just, I well, her career has been longer for obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
there was Shabana via Masala as well.
Right.
But Smita, I've only seen a few.
Yeah. I have good recommendations though, so I can pepper you with those.
Can I ask just one question before we leave this? And this has
Yeah.
nothing to do with Kareena really, but it came up when I was
Oh,
reading about watching Omkara. And someone told me a piece of trivia about Omkara that I cannot find verified anywhere, including with my own eyeballs. Someone told me that in Beatty, Mithun
in BD
Kapoor
Jalele.
is in the background.
Seriously?
Yeah, just like as one of the men watching it. And I can
Why?
find a reference to this anywhere.
Huh.
And I asked the person, I can't find this anywhere. And I watched the song twice looking for him and I don't see him. Can you find it for me? And they never responded. So I'm like, did you, because I mean, I know there's like Mithun posters and lots of films and things like that. But so listeners, if you know anything about that, please point me to it with a timestamp. I would love to see Mithun because I love Mithun.
That is so
And the
funny.
idea of him
Really?
coming
Like that
down,
is
that's
like
cool.
did he just wander onto their set and they were like, "Here."
I assume he would add to the rustic, this is not urban, this is not
Yeah,
super
yeah.
vibe of the film because he's the king of the B centers, right? So
But
um,
wouldn't you as the director or the choreographer at least pan to him once? I mean, I would if I had Mithun
I think
Chakravarti in
I
the
would
general milieu.
I think I would too, but yeah, I don't know, maybe we're being we're not gonna have that kind of wink wink in this film.
Hmm.
But I
It's
I
a
did.
Mithun Easter egg.
Right. So if you know about this myth on Easter egg, please send me evidence. Because I don't like to go around being like, no, he isn't. But also, if he's there, I honestly couldn't see it. And I could find like no one on Reddit's talking about this. So like, does it really if it's not on Reddit, is it real?
Right?
Not a cameo, a film cameo on Reddit. Is it real? So please
But also Bipasha Basu in BD Jalaile. How is a mortal supposed to look at anyone else? It's Bipasha.
it is amazing.
I mean, she's just, you can't look away. I mean, so much for being Kali Billy. You cannot look away from Bipasha Basu. So,
It's great.
okay, I think that concludes this episode of Bebo. We've talked about all of her iconic characters. Please tell us what you think about her movies. Please tell us what you think about her. Do we agree that is the reason that she's so polarizing that she's a mean girl, or is there some other reason? We are very eager to hear your opinions on Bebo because we clearly have a lot of opinions too. So let's get a good conversation going in the comments. And don't yell at Beth for comparing Bebo and Suchitra Sen. And then we will see you next week with another episode. Thank you for watching. Bye.